Wildfires burning in New Jersey, flames scorching more than 10,000 acres. Just one of the issues facing the Garden State as voters prepare to head to the polls to choose their party's nominee for governor. Today, Congressman Josh Gottheimer, vying for the Democratic nomination, going on the record. Taking aim at tourist helicopters.
If we don't take action in the city council, they're not going to have the incentive or the pressure to take that next step.
2 weeks after a tragic deadly crash, passing legislation designed to make them safer and quieter. Council Majority Leader Amanda Farris taking us through the next steps. And big endorsements in the race for New York City mayor.
I thank you for your support. Let's go empower the people.
City Council Speaker Adrienne Adams picking up the support of Attorney General Tish James and one of the largest and most powerful unions in the city. What this means as the clock to primary day ticks down.
This is Picks on Politics with Dan Manarino.
And welcome to Picks on Politics, everybody. I am Dan Manarino, and we are your stop for the big races. Just less than 50 days to go until the New Jersey primaries. Early voting, by the way, begins June 3rd, primary day of June 10th. That's right around the corner. Top of the ballot, the race for New Jersey governor. So we're getting to know all of the candidates right here on this show. And today, Congressman Josh Gottheimer going on the record. And Congressman is joining me now. Great to have you here on the show.
Thanks for having me.
So I want to begin first about a poll that just came out prior to this, to us sitting down. Rutgers University showing that this is really a toss-up in the race for governors. Anybody's race, showing you in the middle of the pack, about 9% of the vote, right? So when you look at that, I mean, the polling's kind of been all over the place in this race. What are you going to do to break away from the pack and bring in some new vote?
Well, you know, these polls are every single day there's a different poll.
Yeah.
Yesterday I had one great one with me, surging up.
Yeah.
And I think this thing will keep changing nearly every day. What I do know is, because, you know, I go talk to folks all over the state in diners everywhere. What I know is that people like what I'm talking about of how I'm going to govern the state of New Jersey, which is all about getting costs down, getting taxes down, making life more affordable for people, because people are hurting right now, and they're feeling just crushed. Right? I mean, if you're a senior, you're worried about Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. You're worried about the ridiculous cost of property taxes in our state and how you're going to afford to live. If you're a parent, you're trying to figure out how to pay for childcare with the second highest in the country, right? If you're anybody, you're a young person coming in, you're worried about the rents, which are up 33%. So it's all about what can we do to make life more affordable.
So I want to tackle all of those individually, but I do want to begin with news of the day right now about what's playing out in New Jersey, and that are these wildfires in Ocean County, right? 50% contained at the time. Yeah. And it is just unbelievable what you're kind of seeing there. It's one of the largest in recent history. What do you think of how it's being handled and federal resources that can come in to help mitigate this for this disaster and to prevent future ones?
Well, listen, you got to give huge credit to our first responders who've just been unbelievable. And they've not, every day they're knocking this thing back further. They got people back in their homes. We're keeping power on, which is really, really important. But the bottom line is the Trump administration, as you know, has cut massively the Forest Service and the people who we need to come in and help. And Mother, that's been their strategy across the board. Take a just chainsaw without any strategy, more chaos, and just whack everything out. And then suddenly, when you've got a problem in a crisis like this, which our guys have done an amazing job with, you realize there's no help federally because they're cutting this stuff. And that's overall, listen, why my general feeling, you mess with Jersey, you mess with our families, you're going to mess with me as governor.
How do you fix that as a governor? If they're making the cuts.
Well, obviously, you see right now what we're doing is, from a member of Congress perspective, we're fighting back to make sure that stuff we've appropriated, we've allocated, that he's actually got to give it to the states and give it to the resources where it's supposed to be, right? You can't just gut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid and hurt seniors. You can't just cut the FAA and take people out of the towers so they're not watching the planes or fighting fires. And then as governor, you got to just make it very clear, whether it's through the courts, and we're going to need it, a legal fund to go after this president, because the stuff that they do is often have zero adherence to the law, right? So you've got to fight them, and that means you're willing to stand up to them. And I think that's the approach that our governors, which are in unique positions to be able to fight policies, whether it's reproductive freedom or making sure we have the resources for our cops and our firefighters, that's really important.
You think Phil Murphy did that?
I think Governor Murphy's actually handling this incredibly well, because he's fighting where he needs to fight. And if there's places where they want to help, sure. Right? But he's not been, whether you're talking about, this issue or others, he's not been shy. And I think that's what you've got to do as governor, right? People want to help you? Great. You want to mess with us? We're coming for you.
Okay. Now, you mentioned the affordability, and that is, I'm a Jersey resident myself. I hear about this all the time. So I want to begin, not property taxes. I want to begin with energy costs, because this is something I've been hearing about recently. And the energy costs going up and away. Some could see it jump as high as 20%. As governor, can you mitigate that? Can you bring costs down? Do you have that power?
Yes. I mean, in fact, starting in June, and I've been talking about this for months, starting in June, in a year, on average, people's electric bills will go up 40%.
But why?
Total in 1 year. It's a basic supply-demand problem, right? We've got demand's gone up. We've got more AI, more data centers, and more people building stuff, right, and using electricity. And we've not kept up with supply. And we use this electric grid. It's an organization that represents 13 states that buys the power, and for the states. They've not added new supply to the grid since 2021. They've not approved a project, right? Alternative energy, traditional sources. The bottom line is my approach as governor will be an all-the-above approach. You have to we're going to need it. The demand is surging, and with AI, it's going to continue to surge. And the reason bills are going up so much is because we just don't have enough supply.
So can you guarantee as governor that you would bring the cost down?
I can guarantee you that as governor, that I'm going to run around and make sure we add more supply.
Which would bring the cost down.
And which, like, we got to get more supply, and that's what I'm going to focus on as governor. Because if you don't, utility bills keep going up. And these utility companies, by the way, are monopolies. So they've done enough. They're not innovating. There's no incentive for them to innovate. We've got a government body, the BPU, that keeps approving these things, which I think is totally outrageous. You can't hit people with a 40% increase in 1 year. Right? It's criminal to do that to people. Man, you're on a fixed income, or you're a hard-working, hard-pressed family. You're trying to pay for all these increased food prices and clothing prices, and you add Trump's tariffs, which are killing people, right, with higher prices and their retirement savings are going down. You can't then hit them with open a bill and it's up 40% in a year.
And I think everybody looks to say, well, what can the governor do about that? And you have the answer to it. Let me ask you about property taxes.
Sure.
Is this something, because I think this gets confusing for a New Jersey resident, that a governor can control, or is it up to the municipalities? And if it is up to the municipalities, which it is, how do you get around it to bring property taxes down?
My tax cut plan, and you can, if you want to hang out tonight, joshforjersey.com, you can read the whole thing. It's more than 40 pages, right? And we brought in experts to say, well, how do you do this? How do you do what other states have figured out to do, which is actually Connecticut just cut their income taxes, right? And Massachusetts has lower taxes now than Jersey, which I find totally outrageous, Taxachusetts, right? How do you figure this out? You actually, you take the property taxes, and the state will say, because my plan cuts property taxes by about 15%, says, listen, we will reimburse you for those cuts. So the state will actually backfill the property tax cuts.
To the towns.
Right, to the towns, because the towns, put out those bills. And that's how we're going to mechanically do it. But the key is, what do you do to actually make sure you make life more affordable? You have to, one, run a more efficient government. You got to be smarter about this. Every one of our 564 towns, pretty much, buys things like salt for their roads individually, right? Or they negotiate their own insurance and healthcare insurance prices. We don't do anything to get the economies of scale, and New York totally rips us off.
Okay, I'll get to that in a second. So how do you tell the town that if you're cutting the costs, you're going to bring up the revenue somewhere else?
Because we're going to reimburse. The state will reimburse them. The state gives lots of money to the town. So if
where are you getting that money?
Through my whole plan, as I was starting to talk about, will create more resources by going, and as we create more resources, we're going to give them back to the town for taxpayers. Because the bottom line is, we need to give taxpayers, whether you're someone just graduating to get you to stay because we're losing people, or you're a senior, and the AARP just reported that 41% of seniors in Jersey are considering leaving because they just can't afford it. We got to figure out how to make life more affordable for them. We can't run things the way we've been running them, and I'm going to fight to get it done like I've done in Washington. Things that people say are impossible are actually not impossible. You just have to be willing to go after it.
Yeah, so how do you convince somebody of that, right? As a member of Congress right now, fighting against some of the things like tariffs or the Trump administration and things that are happening in terms of deportations, whatever it may be. As a member of Congress, somebody might look at the Democrats and say, well, they have no power right now to do much. How are you going to convince them you did do something about it?
Well, listen, you look at my record, and you know this because we've talked for years. The infrastructure bill, which I helped negotiate, write and pass, people said, you can't do that, it's impossible. They told me the same thing when we got the child tax credit expanded and the first gun safety bill done in 30 years, bipartisan. They said, you can't get a gun safety bill done with Republicans. Oh, we did, right? You just have to be willing to be tenacious and tough and go after this stuff and not be afraid. That's how we're going to do this to fix things in the state. And we're going to have to bring the same fight to Trump when he messes with our families.
Okay. What about congestion pricing? Is it going in your favor? This is something that's just so up in the air and the back and forth, and it's getting convoluted for people because there's a letter, there's a lawsuit, and it's back and forth, and people are just saying, well, I'm still paying it.
Right.
So what's happening here?
Well, talk about tenacious. We've been doing this for years, and we'll keep fighting until it's done. And when I'm governor, by the way, we'll definitely kill this thing if they decide this administration and can't get this done. We've gone.
So what makes you think you can kill it as governor?
We're going the court rates because if we want to have a cooperative relationship together on things like the Port Authority that we've always worked together on, you can't have one side of the partnership stick it to the other side, their families, and whack people. Remember, not a nickel of the congestion tax goes to New Jersey. It leads to more pollution in New Jersey, and all it's doing is hitting hardworking nurses and cops and firefighters and people trying to make ends meet. So that's not exactly a great partnership. It's the same thing New York does to us on income taxes, right? You work in New Jersey, but for a New York company, New York says, oh, we get all that too. That's not exactly, it's $4 billion a year. That's not a cooperative relationship. So the congestion tax, this administration, the Trump administration, has said, okay, you want to keep going with that in New York. That's just what they're saying. You want to keep going with that. We're not going to support any other projects that you have that you want for infrastructure in New York.
Right.
And my feeling is, this is what I've said for years, why would a New Jersey taxpayer keep giving our federal tax dollars to New York if they continue to stick it to us?
I'm almost out of time. I just got to ask you real quick. One of your opponents on the other side, on the Republican side, Jack Ciattarelli, proposed this reverse congestion pricing tax. Would you be into that?
I think it's ridiculous. I want people to come from New York to Jersey. I want you to come today and come have dinner in Jersey. I want you to shop in our stores, right? And that's the way it should be, a cooperative relationship. Come on over. It's the greatest state. I want you to be there. By the way, we have no sales tax on clothing. Come shop and support our stores and our economy. I don't know why you'd want. I mean, New York is crazy for shutting this off because you're discouraging New Jersey people to come support New York. We want to be a regional economy.
You think blue laws should still exist?
I think that I defer to our towns on how they want to operate on their daily basis. But I'll tell you this, I'm going to be an unbelievable supporter of growing our state and getting jobs to Jersey because that's where they should be. They shouldn't be in New York. Okay. They should be in Jersey, and I'm going to fight hard for every single one of them. All right, Congressman Josh Gottheimer, great to see you. Thank you for being here, okay? Thanks, man. All right, still to come, everybody. Big endorsements in the race for New York City mayor. Will any support help a candidate eclipse the Cuomo factor, right? But New York City Council renewing efforts right now to make helicopter rides safer and quieter following, of course, that heartbreaking accident over the Hudson earlier this month. So next, Councilmember Amanda Farias breaking down the legislation just passed and the next steps, what it means for these helicopter rides. Picks on Politics back in just 2 minutes.